right, let's do it. So, welcome. Hello. I see that you're a level 235 Cadena.
Yes.
And
For now.
yeah, do you want to tell me a little bit about your woes and what I can help you with today?
Yes. I mean, this is my hyper burn.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna I know kind of my main goal is just to push to 250 as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, once I sort of hit to I think 240, it'll
Mm-hmm.
be my highest. So it's just more or less trying to figure out kind of what I need to do.
Sure.
Um, 'Cause I don't fully understand the familiars yet.
Okay.
As well as some of the like V matrix and all that. So
Okay. All right.
uh,
So this is your second highest character now, but is going to be your highest level character.
yes,
But you do have a pretty big, extensive legion, right? Yeah. So you're like approaching 7K. So you have played a lot of different characters already.
yeah,
But you found that this is the one that actually fits like what you want to do in the game the best.
yeah. It's a little bit. I mean, I'm still not super comfortable with like bossing on it, but I know like
Okay.
it's something that's it's definitely piqued my interest,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that I want to try and learn. So
Yeah, and you have to. I mean, practice makes perfect there, right? You're only at level 235, and with a hyper burn, that means you've barely made your character. So there's a lot of time to get better at that. But you notice some improvement going as you practice more on the bosses.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm starting to figure out some of the combos, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, for Cadena specifically, I just kind of winged it. But I imagine if you're maining it, there's probably some combo videos out there that probably get shared. I don't know if you're in contact with like the Cadena Discord. There's probably some people there very, passionate about their class.
Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna start to ask a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
or like a few more questions once I kind of get that base understanding of what's going on with the class.
Yeah, I don't want to have people guide you through one way. It's like a little bit mixed. You don't want to learn like bad habits that you have to then unlearn later, but you also don't want to immediately have someone else tell exactly what you need to do. There's like a little bit of a discovery phase that's kind of really fun, I think, in the beginning, right, when you're just getting into it.
Oh yeah, and I mean, when people sort of like initially explain the combos and all that, they
Mm-hmm.
just tell you sort of what to do. I'm like, like you can tell me exactly what keys to hit, and I still like it'll still take me a little bit before I realize like what
Yeah, what's the
you know.
goal, right? Like, yeah, like what is
So,
what is the A and the B, and like how to get there. Yeah, if
yeah,
it makes sense, like, okay, this is what you're trying to avoid, this is what you're trying to avoid, then you're trying to fill in the gaps between those with as many skills as possible. But yeah, I mean, Noah in the community is definitely Cadena main, who said like he thought he was doing pretty well in the beginning, and then he looks back at his old combo videos that he made himself, and it's like, oh my god, I'm so slow, I'm so bad, because you just get better and better and better as time goes on. And sometimes with like the exact same gear, you'll just be able to squeeze out almost double the damage just by performing all your combos better. So it's definitely a very high skill ceiling character.
which I think that's probably one of the big things that that drew me to it, where it's like I can kind of if I can start to master it, like it's definitely a really rewarding class
Mm-hmm.
to learn.
I mean, horrible with it for my Project Sierra run, but even I went in one day from, I guess, going into C-Vel and doing, I think, like 30% of his damage and timing out to eventually killing it in the, I mean, within the time with like a minute or two left, without making any extra upgrades, just by learning how to play the character just a little bit better. And that was virtually without any animation canceling and stuff. So I'm sure if I go back to the same character and actually learn the character properly, I can probably almost kill it in half the time. If you include like the what's it called, the like all the power creep, that in general goes on in the game.
Yeah.
Okay, but so you're enjoying it, and like when you talk about like, are you thinking about when it comes to bossing? Are you doing any of that, or is it just mainly focusing on the grind for now?
I mean, right now it's kind of more so focusing on the grind. Although,
yeah, you said as fast as possible, but you have a decent amount of time, right?
yeah, I just like I kind of want to get to sort of the later game bosses.
Okay.
Where it's like I've done Lucid and
on the other character, so you want to get past
and
that.
I'm trying to learn Will, so I just want to be able to actually have something that can at least, you know, kill phase 1 for Will, so I can at least try and get comfortable on the other phases. But
oh, you're trying to like solo easy to get the mechanics done, and then maybe solo normal kind of thing, or
not even necessarily soloing, but I mean, if I could solo easy, that would definitely help to just get the mechanics down, so that I'm not screwing over a bossing party or anything. So
yeah, I mean, you want to make sure that when you're going in a party that the expectations are are set properly, right? Like, okay, this is like 3 people's first time. It's going to be a shit show. Phase 1 is probably going to work fine, but phase 2 is probably going to be where we die out. That's pretty normal for new parties. And a lot of times people will be doing like hard Lucid before they even attempt Will, just because they want just so much damage that once they figure out the mechanics, they can immediately blow through it. A lot of people still kind of put Will, either they get carried or they put it on hold for quite a bit. But I think it's fine, as long as the people, you know, in a party are aware that, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a shit show. Everyone went through those first 3 or 4 runs where it was just absolutely horrendous. You can watch all the videos you want, but you kind of have to just get in there and try it, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, watching the videos is one thing, but then also being in there and sort of seeing what it's going to look like, especially with your whatever class you're playing, just so that you can actually, you know, try and really figure out where you need to be and what you need to do.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good thing that there's 3 difficulties of Will, because one of the major things in the beginning, you know, you get so much moonlight, you know, all the stuff that's so little damage. You're really just focusing on like, how do I get from point A to B? Like, you know, what is this test? Making sure you don't die, you know, and it's not as easy to die, you know, so it's easier to survive, easier to get through the tests. But then as you go through the harder level difficulty, you know, it becomes way more punishing just to get hit by anything. You might not die because of healing fams and stuff, if you know, get those by that point, right? Hopefully some party members get some. But the other thing is that, you know, your moonlight, especially once you go to hard, your moonlight fills up very slowly, and every time you get hit, your moonlight recovery pauses. So if you keep getting hit by stuff, you just don't get any moonlight, and it's going to make your runs maybe not fail, but like fail tests, you know, which takes a lot of the extra time off. People's buffs might start running out. Some people who aren't as good might start dying out because how much longer the run is. Then you have fewer people able to, you know, make it through the tests in phase 2. Then you have fewer people cleansing in phase 3, more people getting webbed and dying there. And it kind of, you know, it's like a cascade of failures. It's kind of how the boss is designed. But if everyone has the proper, you know, base understanding of like easy will and then partying up for normal, and then, you know, a few shitty runs and then getting through normal, and then once those runs go smoothly, then moving up to hard should be okay. But it'll be a little bit of an adjustment every single time you go up a difficulty. But I think that's fine.
Yeah, I want to try and get to the harder bosses. Like it was always sort of, I got to like CRA and then that was kind of it.
Yeah.
So.
And now CRA is like week 1 or week 2 of a character. It's a completely different experience, right?
Yeah, it's nice though being able to, because I mean I'm still not super great with like even CRA. Like I just kind of, I don't know what the sort of requirements for it are, so I tend to just ignore it until I randomly try it and I'm way too strong for it.
Right.
But,
yeah. Well, as your legion grows, you'll find that new characters are ready for it earlier and earlier. So my project CRA, I don't know if you know about that, that I put on YouTube. So I try to solo CRA on all the classes in the game. I put like a baseline of funding out, which, man, when I started this is probably already like 2 years ago. At that point, I think it was a good level of funding, and like the Cadena was able to do it like not super duper easy. Like with some practice, I was able to do it within a day, so I probably could do it with less as well. But that was like around that level of funding that I thought was pretty fair you know? I was basically trying to emulate, like, okay, a completely new player around level 210, like, how strong can that person be? So, like, on the funding for all the equips, I went pretty average. On some other stuff, I went a little bit lower because my Legion was higher. So I was trying to, like, roughly emulate, like, if it's your main and you're dumping all your money into it, like, how strong could you be?
Okay.
And then seeing, like, at 210, is it actually realistic that people are... Because I was like, okay, you know, there's a lot of incongruency with the levels, right? Because, like, the CRA gear is level 150, and then the access is 180, but the bosses are 200. So people are, like, level 200, 210, maybe 215, and they're looking like, okay, I'm level 215, but I don't even have level 150 gear yet. Like, I must be so bad, or I must be missing something. Like, I guess I need to get carried because I'm just too weak and just I can't play the game or something. And I think that's something that comes over from other games where the level of the equipment and the level of the character is way more congruent with each other. Whereas in MapleStory, it just has to do with how strong you can upgrade the equip, right? It doesn't really have that much to do with the character. In non-reboot it does because of trade, but in reboot the levels don't really matter in that sense, right?
Yeah.
But it's really hard to get that out of, like, a new, you know, new people coming in, especially from other games. I've heard, like, in WoW, for example, like, it's really weird to have those weird numbers mismatching. And what was the other thing? Oh, the other thing that a lot of people said, like, in WoW, it's very important that you fill out all of your character equipment slots. And whereas in MapleStory, it's very unimportant. Like, you can have 10 open slots and be stronger than someone who has all of them filled, right? As long as you have the right items and they're, like, a little bit upgraded, you can be way stronger than someone who goes out of their way to get every single, you know, to get, like, the pocket item and to get all of the rings and all of the pendants and everything. In the beginning, those slots are so weak, right? Those items. And I think those are two things that new players, especially played out of the other MMOs coming into the game, they kind of overvalue those things because, I mean, how can you know? You know, you only have your reference frame to go off of.
And I definitely fell in that trap as well.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, like, I'm not.
Yeah, I see that charm, so I think
that was just get me the pocket slot.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Let's just get this going.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
I'm
then
still.
yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how to upgrade properly and all that. So
yeah, so I guess first things first, to answer that question on, like, you know, how strong you need to even be for CRA, it truly depends on how much you want to struggle with it, right? Some people don't want to struggle at all, and they basically just do what you're doing on purpose. They just get carried through shit first, upgrade all the things, throw a bunch of bills at it, and then just nuke the bosses. That's definitely the way to go. I don't know if that's something that you want to do purposefully, or if you kind of want to be more limit testing, I guess. Yeah, some people want to solo everything. Yeah. Some people just want to do, like, struggle parties, right? Because that's what I was trying to that was going to mention earlier as well. Like, I tried to help people, like, okay, like, you don't have to be soloing CRA at 210, right? But just, like, is it even possible with, like, a reasonable level of funding? Or do you really have to get carried? Or is it, like, can you find a struggle party with a few people on the same level and then just duo or trio it? Like, is that more doable? And what I found was, so my funding was, I threw a lot of occult cubes, so all of the items were, like, epic and 9%. The WSE, weapon secondary emblem, was also epic, which is, like, 6% attack. And then ID came for a little bit from familiars, so we'll talk about that later. And then I used about 100 nodes in total just to get, you know, like, a little bit of base boost nodes started, basically. And then mostly maybe, like, one decent skill and then just your regular 5th job skills, right? The earlier ones were, I don't know if I had all 4 of my special skills already. I think I had all 4. And then for some you need a bind specifically. Yeah, and that was pretty much it, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the Legion did a lot of the carrying there, but, you know, also to illustrate the value of Legion, how big that is, and you probably noticed that, right? As close to 7K, like, every new character is really, really strong now. If you go on
yeah, it's one of those I'll forget to put the skill points in, and then I'll look back and it's like I'm up to 800 or something like that, or the ability points. So just
Oh, the AP, yeah. You're
yeah,
like,
like
every
and I'm just
120, you're clicking it, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you're just not missing it. It's like, I'm missing a little bit of damage. It's like, oh, I missed like 180 stats, and I'm still wearing a level 20 weapon, like at level 90. It's like, oh, yeah. I need to upgrade a little bit. Then you upgrade, and then suddenly the numbers go like ×5. You're like, oh, okay, this is better. Well, yeah, also you know where to train. You know not to go to monsters too many levels above you, so that hurts your damage, right? All of that experience rolled up. It's really just compounding information all coming together that help you like streamline your progress through the whole thing a little bit. Yeah. So what I was getting at with the when you asked with the requirements and stuff, how familiar are you with my commands in my channel?
not super familiar.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
You could just
like,
say I haven't seen
open.
a single one. Like,
I have a bunch of them open,
Okay.
which I was trying to kind of go through.
Okay.
And like I do like the trying to sort of figure out what they like how to follow them.
Sure.
But
Yeah. Do you have any questions right now? Like any that you've seen and you're kind of wondering what? Because like the two main ones I get to is the progression one and the dailies one, and I find that these two combined are very much like the foundation of like things that a lot of questions can be answered, right? So when people are like, okay, well, what should I be working on, or should I be cubing or star forcing, or should I be working on my legion? Pretty much all of those questions can be answered roughly by checking the progression grid. And then if you want to know like where you need to look, a lot of them have links within them or point towards commands within them that you can then check to get more information on specific topics.
okay.
And then if you manage to meet somewhat the metrics here, then you can use your level as a good indicator of how strong you are. And then you can use the dailies command to see what kind of stuff do I think is worth to at least attempt or to look at doing around your level. So in that sense, I feel like a lot of the things between those two, a lot of questions can be answered, or at least the baseline can be, the foundation can be laid for. This is where you can start looking for the answer, basically.
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't actually see the dailies one, so that's good. I can try and.
Yeah, this one was way more elaborate. This first page, but a lot of the stuff, it had like. I can check, but I think it had like the boss crystal values and all that stuff. But a lot of that stuff is just in game, and you could just with 2 clicks you can already see everything. So I'm not going to keep like a whole, or it was like the EXP per boss was kind of important early on, but I mean at this point, yeah, I mean, that some bosses have more EXP like Zakum, Horntail, and like Big Bean, I think, and then that's it. So to make like a full column for all of the bosses in the game where everything
It's
past
just
like
the three
level
of them.
200, the EXP is completely. Yeah, you can just ignore completely the EXP. It's like, oh, like Will gives like 5 EXP or something. It's like, I don't even know why. I guess they had to program in at least one. They couldn't give it a 0 number. But I do have the column here for bossing experience on like how important I think it is to have to go through the stages and to learn the boss fight in terms of what it teaches you about the game and how you can translate that knowledge into to future bosses. So this is kind of like if you get carried by the ones that are like completely irrelevant, like I don't really care. You do you. I don't think you're losing any really valuable experience here. But if it's slightly relevant or very relevant, I would say try to understand those boss fights because it will set you up with a lot of knowledge, and you don't want to be that one guy who does his very first party boss is like hard will and you have absolutely no idea what's going on and how you even dodge things because you've always just like hid in the corner, pressing iframes and staying dead as long as possible, just milking your deaths on like 3-minute hard carries and then just taking the loot at the end, So if you feel like you want to be carrying your weight a little bit more, there's definitely some bosses here that I think set you up very well. And if you start from the ground up and then slowly work your way up, you'll see certain mechanics like return. Like if you get very good at hard Magnus, for example, that's a very good foundation for Will. You want to stay close to the boss. You want to keep him in the middle of the map. There's stuff falling from the ceiling that you want to be careful for, right? I mean, not as much in Will, but that in general, that'll be a general theme, like in Gloom that's going to come back, and Black Mage eventually that's going to come back. But the boss is also doing things to you that you need to look out for. Plus, there's map effects going on. So there's definitely bosses like that where in the beginning, and a lot of people hate the design of Hard Magnus, and I can totally understand. But once you start parsing out like which things are higher danger, what is the priority to dodge, what is the lower risk thing that if you have to get hit by something, what is the thing that you could get hit by and you could be okay with, and what are the things that you absolutely have to dodge. Learning that like priority through practice on what is the main thing, you definitely that helps you in later boss fights where you have to make those decisions faster. If you already made that decision 100 times earlier on HMAG, you'll be able to make that decision faster on the harder level bosses, where the price that you pay can be that much higher.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking at the CPAP, and that, I mean, I've tried to watch videos for it, and that fight, I just
yeah, I made a video for that one. A lot of people found
idea.
Yeah, a lot of people found I had a lot of good feedback on my video that I made for it. And then I had to update it when they changed how the platforms worked, because they messed those up. Well, they changed them. I don't think they changed them for the better. Maybe for some classes they did. And I updated that video. But a lot of people found that one very useful on learning to do the boss fight. But I basically just looked through one of my boss fights on my Adele. Yeah, here's level 215 on my Adele. And then, because I didn't want the run to be super fast and just nuke the boss, like that's not helpful.
Because that was I was asking people sort of about what their opinions were. A lot of people just said, get strong enough to burst it, like ignore it until you get strong enough to just burst it, and then that's when you go and kill it. Yeah,
you can definitely do that if you want to. But yeah, so I talked through a run here on like my positioning, where I move, how I move, where I do, all the individual mechanics. And if I iframe, I also try to talk through like what could you do instead of that, because not everyone has access to iframe. And also not running on like a Mihail who's just immune to all damage 40% of the time, because that would be a little bit that'd be a little bit difficult to be like, oh yeah, just use all of your iframes all the time, I'll send you a link here, but I have about 200 commands, so we'll definitely start pointing at some. For some of them, we'll give a little bit of a rundown, like really quickly what's in there, like this one. But if you really want to get all the details, probably could do well to check it out again later, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely gonna sort of try and go through at least a
majority
majority of
them.
commands.
Well, majority. Do like 10%, and you'll honestly like so. There's a few, like as a completely new player, like the new command that's got some information. I would say knowing, like I feel like you should be able to say like I really understand how transfer hammer works and when I want to use it and how valuable it is. I think that's probably one of the most important things to know in Reboot. Transfer hammering alone will save you multiple tens of billions on progress if you keep playing this game by using it at the right time. And on the right items. So transfer hammer is super important. And then I would say the combination of the progression and the dailies grid, which I try to keep up to date as much as possible. If you just can interpret those numbers and follow those to their information where it's coming from, and you can understand those two, then where damage comes from, how to balance your time, or what would be an optimal balance of your time in case you get lost, right? I'm never telling you like you have to do these dailies, or you have to get this number, or you have to, right? This is just like general advice on like if you're around this benchmark, then you're good. You don't have to worry, right? And and if you're like over on something because you like it more, that's cool. Like in your case, like your Legion is way higher than what it said here. What does that mean? That means that everything else can be a little bit lower and you'll still be fine because it'll compensate, right? So if there's something that you enjoy more, then go harder on that, because if that's fun for you, man, keep the game fun, right? And if you find something else that's not as much fun for you, then just go a little bit less on that, and those two things will compensate, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Legion was, I know it's funny because like a lot of them initially was just kind of trying different classes out and then get them to like, I was always getting them just to 130. I don't know why. I just kind of hit 130 and then was like, you know what, no, I'm done. And then recently, I think Night Troop, I started to really try and push them to at least 140, and I was like, I'll leave them there for now and then slowly at least bonk pot them when I can.
Yeah, you'll see
So
here that like 140. So your intervals that you're working with is like 60, 70, 120, 60, 70, 100, 120, 140, 200, 250, right? Does that make sense if I say those numbers?
yeah,
Yeah. So that's, I guess that's one of the other more like baseline commands that I think is very valuable is the links command. So this has like all the Legion buffs and all the link skills of all the characters on it. And I basically organized the main stats that I think are the most important. And that basically, what follows from that is basically the order in which I would advise to level characters so that it benefits you the most, you know, that you can create like the best kind of snowball to roll down the hill, essentially.
yeah, I know.
But
I
for you, this
just
is no longer,
recently.
yeah, your Legion is like way beyond this point. You'll be at like number 40 plus at this point, right? Or maybe already
Yeah,
have all the characters, yeah.
I just recently got my Mercedes up to 210 because
Mm-hmm.
I think I struggled to get it to 130 or 140 because I just did not like it,
Mm-hmm.
and then just spent the rest, just potted it all the way up because I just couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, that's totally fine. So usually I tell people when you're working on Legion, you're gonna love some characters and you're gonna hate some characters. That's completely unavoidable. That's normal. It will always be weird if you love all of them or hate all of them. That would be really kind of weird. If you hate all of them, maybe try a different game. If you love all of them, then you know you're gonna have a bad time because you're gonna have to let go of characters, or you're gonna have to, you know, go like full Sacrex and get everything to 250. But try to, when you have a character, try to kind of in your head or somewhere keep track of like what kind of character it is. Like, is a character you're okay leveling just straight up? That's cool. Is it a character that you're okay leveling if there's some help, you know, if there's like a big event or there's maybe a little bit of potioning going on or maybe a bit, you know, or is there one that you need to get dragged across the finish line so it's like only burn or extremely big potions, one of those things? Or is there something you just absolutely don't want to do, you know? Those are like kind of like the categories, and I would try to, you know, in the theme of like keeping it fun, once an event comes around, you'd be like, oh, okay, there's a burn coming out. Okay, who do I have in a burn character category? Oh, these two characters. Okay, I'll pick one of those two. Or there's like, oh, there's a huge event buff coming out for low level characters. Oh shit, which ones am I okay with leveling, but do I want to get boosted a little bit, right? Then look in that category. If there isn't one, you can move to the next category, but as long as all the characters in your mind are at least in one of those categories, that takes a whole lot of pressure off of you, like having to decide as well, like, oh god, who do I pick now, you know? Because there's so many classes and you don't want to take like 3 months to figure out like, oh, who am I going to hyper burn in 3 months, you know?
Yeah, that definitely. I've done that a few times where I'm like, oh, there's a burn coming, and I like, okay, who do I want to get to 200? And then I'm kind of like, a lot of the time I'll be like, I'll pick something because it's fun, and then I'm like, I also could have, you know, burned a character that like would have been a little bit more beneficial account wise, but
eventually they'll just get there, you know.
Yeah, it's
you've
just
got events,
very
you've got
slow.
infinity pools, you've got burns. Yeah, but you know, slow and steady. Slow and steady finishes the race, I always say. Slow and steady doesn't win the race, right? Fast and steady wins the race. But slow and steady finishes the race. And I think it's more important. A lot of times it's more important whether you finish or not rather than winning. Because who gives a shit? Like, you know, we don't even have trade. We're not really competing with anyone here. I think it's better that you reach your goals and that you have fun in the whole way through, right? And how you get there is way more important than whether you get there or not eventually. Because, you know, you can set up a certain goal, but once you reach that, you just set a new one. And if you don't reach it, you know, if you had fun trying to get there, then a lot of times that's, in hindsight, you know, I think that's always more important than whether you really achieve like some greatness or anything like that. Okay.
And I mean,
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so like link skills, I know I made like recently just trying to finish out like the explorer thief and all that, like just trying to actually be able to max out all of the but I know there's some like the beast tamer would be a good one to get, I think, up to level 3.
Yeah, so later thing to knock out all those level 3s. It helps when you're trying to min-max and puzzle your 100% crit rate together, right? And you're bossing, then the 10 and the 10 will help you out.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think I do have the 100% crit now.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, and I know I have the fake Apso weapon right now, so
Mm-hmm.
I know it's kind of like it's two and a half items, but
Yeah.
where I'm like, I think my IED is still really low.
Yeah, this is a fully buffed. That's on the lower hand, yeah.
It's fully buffed without the muscle memory stacks because I just couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
and I think
forgot
you
to try
have
get all that.
Is it the dagger that gives you IED? Dagger debuff? That's one of them, right? One of your skills, I believe, gives it a IED
Yeah.
debuff on the
The
boss.
30%.
Yeah, it's pretty big, you know. So you can add that into your visual for your functional IED, right? And that goes back to the progression grid as well, right? The IED, that number that's mentioned here, that's your functional IED. So that's basically like how much are you applying on the boss when you hit it versus what do you see in the stat window. That's what I call the visual IED. Because for some characters, those are pretty much the same. You know, they don't really add anything. They just have boost nodes and, you know, explore, mage, link skill, and that's it. That's the only difference. But everyone has boost nodes, so you can really add that. But everyone has the mage as well. So, you know, that's a basically functional visual is the same. But some other classes have a whole lot. Like Demon Avenger, for example, has a 30% IED debuff, and then has a built-in 30% IED on the main attacking skill, for example, and the secondary attacking skill has a double IED. So at that point, you know, if you're just looking at your IED on that character, your effective IED or your functional IED is like in the early to mid 90s easily. So it's like, you know, you don't have to put as much pressure there to get your IED up. Eventually you do, right? Because the amount of sources and stuff go up, but
Yeah.
you can
Well,
kind of ease off the gas there.
Because the only reason that I like basically brought up the IED there is just I'm just trying to still figure out what I would want to get on my weapon.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of when I get my actual Apso weapon.
Sure.
Because I'm always confused with, do I just go for attack or do I try and get some of the boss damage and the IED in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we could talk about that a little bit. So we have what's called WSE potential, right? So weapon, secondary, and emblem potential. That's why they're in the screenshot together in the order as well, right? WSE. So you got that. You really just want to look at these three items and just put all of the lines they have just all in one big pile, and you want to look at them as one big pile, right? So since you have the other two already at 2-line attack, which is really nice, that does kind of limit your if you're trying to like min-max, it kind of limits your options. But the earlier in the game you are, the more moving parts you have, and that gives you outs. So what do I mean by that? So let's say that your weapon, let's say that we calculated like what would be the optimal for you in your current situation. It could very well be that the best for you right now for a weapon would be like 1 line of attack, 1 line of boss, 1 line of IED, for example. You know?
Okay.
But if you were to specifically chase that line, that might be pretty expensive. So instead of that, you want to give yourself more outs, right? Like more options that are hits. So I mean, I guess the thing that's poker terminology, right? if you have a certain hand, right, you have more outs. So any combination, basically, of weapon attack and boss damage and IED will give you damage. Now the question is, if you are specifically looking for damage when you're, let's say that mobbing wise you're kind of struggling for damage, if you then get a potential that's like 2 boss line and a line of IED, or 2 IED lines and a line of boss, which you could make work for bossing, that means that you're getting no damage from that whatsoever when you're mobbing, right? So that would be pretty rough. And in some cases, people who hit those kind of lines on like a secondary, for example, they might make another secondary, a tertiary, if you will, or a secondary, and then roll on the other one something more similar to the one that you have, and then use this one specifically for for mobbing, and then the
Oh,
other one for
okay.
bossing. Because if you're this early on, it's really it's mostly a matter of like how many active lines does your item have, right? So your emblem would be a 2-line, your secondary would be a 2-line with a little bonus, and your weapon is basically like a 1.5 line almost, right? Because you could get like a 40 boss top line on bossing, and then it's like almost the same as this, and then you can get the crit rate somewhere else. So it's like just a little bit above like a 1-line, and then when you're mobbing, it's actually bad. Just, you know, the potential is just bad on this, right? But if you know that you
Yeah.
can mob fine with a fake, that means that you could get away with like almost no damage to regular monsters, and you'd still be fine killing regular monsters, right? Because you have that baseline, you know how strong you are. You could maybe even add guild skills if you're training, right? You've got like a big buffer there. So it's okay to chase bossing and to chase specifically like attack, boss damage, and IED, but any combination there, you're just looking for 2 functional lines. You typically just want your prime legendary line to be one of those, preferably boss or attack, and then have at least one of the other 2 to also be a line. So anything like 40 boss, 9 attack, and anything on the last one, or like 40 boss and 30 IED, and even if it's just nothing, that's a good start. Right? If you're going to legendary, you want at least 2 lines to be working for you. In general,
Okay.
I have like, if it's rare, you want to get it to epic. If it's epic, you want to get like a 6% line at least, right? Otherwise, you're not taking the least potential out of it, or you're not getting any value out of it because you have occult cubes, right? You always have occult cubes, so you always want to be rolling at least until you hit 6%. If you're going to unique, I think before you're considering to go to unique, you gotta have the money to be able to commit to at least getting like 1.5 lines there. Like I don't like 9% unique items very much. I'll have it on like my 8th or my 9th character, right? But if you're going to unique, you're gonna want to be able to support getting something useful in there. So I would say at least 12% to 15%, right? Like a 9-6 or a 9-3 all, something like that on a
Yeah.
unique. Same thing goes for WSE, right? If you're going for unique, you typically want like 2 lines to do something for you, but it's okay if the second one is a little bit eh. If you're going to legendary, you gotta have the funds to at least make 2 lines do something for you, at least 2. So
Okay.
so in that sense, the emblem and the secondary, I think, are in a great spot, and I think any combination on your weapon will make a do, because what I was talking about with the workaround, this is where your other stuff comes in, right? So let's say that you do hit 40 IED, 40 boss or something, and like 9 all stat, whatever, like that looks pretty shit. It's definitely not ideal, but depending on how much money you have left, you could settle for that and then be like, okay, what are we gonna do? Okay, maybe I'll move my, you'll move your Legion pieces around, right, for your grid, take it out of IED because maybe it's a little bit too high now, and move that into boss damage instead. That way the
Yeah.
stats still work
I
for you.
just have my Legion set up that like I don't know why I basically was just like I'll throw it all like crit damage and then
Mm-hmm.
IED's right there as well. So
Yeah,
that
we'll
was
talk
kind
about
of
the Legion in a little bit, because there's definitely some optimizing we can do there, and that veers into the area of basically when I talk about making sure that the effort that you've already put into the game, that you capitalize on that, because you've put quite some work into this game, and if you, by just rearranging the stuff a little bit, you'll be able to capitalize even harder on the gains that you've got. Like, you have to realize that potential still. Like, you have the potential for damage there, but it's not being fully realized because of the attribution. And the same thing will be true for like hyperstat points, right? Especially once you're trying to
yeah.
go get like past 10 stars. A lot of it can be for people very tempting to be like, okay, or not 10 stars, sorry, but like level 10. People be like, okay, past level 10 is very expensive, so I'll just get like my attack to 10 and the main stat to 10 and everything. It's better to like, get that up to like level 4, maybe 5, but then just sit on your points and then start cramming it in like the critical damage, ID damage, boss damage, those guys, because that'll just be much more useful. Unless, right, in your case, you're leveling super duper fast, you might want to go into Arcane Power then, right, to kind of be able to keep up with the demand of going into the higher level maps, and you want to loose it not like in 10 years, so you want to get that access a little bit earlier.
And would you say that it's worth it to save up from the Clover store to buy the 17 star scroll? If like just for when I get my weapon and just slap it to 17 star or
Yeah, I would say it depends on when you get it. I think right now I would advise to not do that, because I think they're a little bit too expensive, and we have the Shining Star Force coming up on the 11th, so that is 2 weeks from now. and that's 30% off and 5, 10, 15 at the same time. So that should make it way cheaper. Like you should be able to get at least 1, maybe 2 backups for Fafnir, and then just send that. And if you send it to 16, transfer it into the Abzo 16 for free, or 100 at 100%, and then just safeguard the last star. I like that more, unless there's nothing else you really want to buy in the Clover store. But you have to look at the dates, right? Because on the 1st of December, the Clovers will reset.
Yeah.
I think there'll be more value in like taking the flames, for example, and just getting the fodder ready, and then doing that during Shining Star Force, and then being able to throw the flames on the Abzo when you buy it, and then get a really nice flame on it. That's probably gonna be that's probably what I'll do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I bought out, I think, most of the, I think I bought out all the red flames.
Okay. Yeah. So you got the
And then
Eternals. Yeah.
I just have four Eternals left that I can buy for this month.
Yeah. Let me check the store a little bit, because I mean, you probably bought the nodes out, but the nodes are so much cheaper than it's like, oh, I can buy those out really quick.
The nodes are very quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just whenever you see the stuff with like Karma, some of those items are really good for sure. But like the Karma scrolls, I think are pretty much priced for non-reboot. Because they make, Star Force cost is the same, but they make the money way slower, right?
Yeah.
So for them, that's better value. But for us in reboot, I feel like we just brute forcing, especially if you have backups, just brute forcing it through the system should be on average cheaper. There's those level up potions as well. I was comparing the value yesterday to the growth potion selector coupon. You can see that the level 200 to 209 is a little bit overpriced compared to that one. But the 200 to 229 are a little bit underpriced compared to the growth potion selector coupon. So I don't know if you want to do that to get like a free level, but that's like 2,000. It also seems a bit pricey. Yeah, but you can only buy 10 Eternals. Plus the flames are very expensive compared to the nodes. It's a little bit weird. On the pricing is just a little weird. That was the first thing I was looking at. I was like, damn, there's some weird prices. You could get a bunch of Meister Cubes, of course. You can get up to 1,000 spend on that. 20 cubes, that'd be like 240 mil worth. Yeah, I usually just redirect it to Mezzo, right, and see what makes sense. Like a Karma cube.
So like the Meister cubes, would that be like on par, or like I guess like the same as just spamming red cubes, or?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So that's like 12 mil, right? But that's priced the same as a Karma flame, like an Eternal flame. But an Eternal flame is about 3 times as good as a red flame, and a red flame is like 9 mil in the shop. So if you look at those values, the Meister cube is priced like 2 to 3 times the value that it should be compared to the Eternals. But then again, the max amount that you can buy is higher, so maybe that's why they're a bit pricier. Yeah, sometimes it's a little weird to look at the prices like that. But if I mean, you could go for the Star Force scrolls if you don't really want to do the level up potions, the growth potions. You don't think there's that much value in that for you, and you've bought out the Eternals, then I mean, it's better to buy one of the Karma scrolls, and just send it and save yourself the money and the trouble, and just one click be done. If the Clovers are going to be, running out otherwise on December, so because we are coming up on the last, we only have like 3 days left, right? So if you don't really have anything else that you feel like spending on, don't let them go to waste, of course.
If I don't have if I don't get enough for the 17 star, should I just get like the 15 star would work just as well? I mean, it's just a couple more.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably, cause what is the price diff?
It's like half almost.
Yeah, it's almost half. Yeah, I'd probably buy some 15s, honestly, because with the Shining Star Force coming up, 15 to 17 is very cheap there. And you'll have it already, you have it ready at 15, which means you don't have to mess with fodder if you just do it right on the Abzo pieces that you get. So getting some 15 stars be better value than getting a 17, I would say. It's tempting to get the 17 just to have it quote-unquote done for now, right? But with the Shining Star Force coming, you'll be able to finish it off really easily with some money, and you'll be able to get twice the items ready. And like I said, you don't have to worry with the fodder, so that does skip a step there for you. So I'd probably go for the 15s then, yeah.
Perfect. At least that gives me a little bit of a
Yeah, something to
figuring out
spend
what.
on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so many things to figure out.
I think that's one of the big things. I would constantly get overwhelmed of like I don't know where I'm going at this point. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know most of my gear is legendary at this point because of the scroll sale. So
Mm-hmm. The cube sale
or
yesterday
yeah,
or Friday,
the
yeah.
Q sale.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of I went hit everything legendary and then tried to roll a few lines and
And
really I just settled for a lot of them. But
okay. And does that mean that you have drop and meso gear now?
I have half drop and I don't have meso gear. I just have drop right now.
Okay.
Um, or somewhat drop.
Somewhat drop, yeah. Okay.
So
Well, okay. You did ask about two things earlier. I think we want to make sure that we address those. So that was familiars and V matrix, right?
yes.
Make sure that we get those addressed. So, well, surprise, surprise, for both of these, I have a command. Haha. So we could do familiars first. What are your questions on familiars? Because I see some right things already. These are already looking pretty good.
I know that I need to get badges, and I know kind of like that. And I like sort of know what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So since you say sorta, so I have on the familiar command in the bottom. I basically have all my resources and like my advice. So on the top is like all of the, the official Nexon release info, basically on like the prices, everything like written out. This can be pretty useful. This is like the stacking of the badges, so that you don't go for badges whose stats won't really work for you anymore. Because some things stack like really, like speed only stacks up to 2, for example. But then ignore enemy defense stacks up to 15, like you can get up to 5 3% lines. But then defense stacks up to 2%, and max MP only up to 5. I don't know who came up with these things, but these are, once you select more badges than that, the stats will just appear in red, like they're not being applied. So if you check the badges here, so you see I have them all in white here, so to make sure that they don't overlap. But if I were to switch, okay, that was a bad example. If I were to switch this one out, yeah. So then you see it turns up in red here, like this is not being applied. So you want to, this is like very min-maxy to have like the exact stats that you want. But like 3% damage, 3% attack, 2 lines of ID, right? The crit. But in the beginning, you just want to get what you were talking about, getting the 10 badges, right? So you can have the easiest badges here. There's a little tier list I made on like which badges I think are worth chasing if you're trying to get the 10 badges. And you'll see, you'll mostly be relying on this A tier here with the ones that are just super easy, but they're level restricted. So it's very possible to get like 8 very quickly, but then the last 2 might be very hard. But if you get them at like level 240 and 245, that might be worth just waiting some levels for, just to get them all that easier. If you're still on the grind.
I know that's what some people were saying, is just basically ignore it until you get to the later badges where like the Apocalypse one and all that. Like that's just, it's a free badge.
245, like Void, Apocalypse, and Labyrinth they're just free. But that's 240, 245, and 250. Yeah.
So I mean, and that's kind of like
for 245, 250, and 255.
The badges are just. I know, like obviously, I guess my other question was: is it worth it to just go in high drop gear, and just try and get like familiars like that, or have somebody closer to the level of the mob? Like, does that make a difference if you're trying to farm for the lower level ones? If you have somebody that's like closer.
No, yeah. So I think that's another video game thing that creeps in. Maybe World of Warcraft does this as well. I'm not sure. But when it comes to drops, they're not affected by the level difference with you whatsoever. So you can kill a level 1 monster or kill a level 300 monster. Like they'll have the same chance of dropping the thing, depending on what your drop rate is. The one exception there is Meso, but the Meso doesn't have a lower chance to drop, but there is a penalty on the final amount of Meso that is in bags, so that you can't like go farming for Mezzo on level 10 monsters if there's some weird thing where they drop a whole lot of money. If the starting at 10 level difference over the monster, you start getting reduced Mezzo, and then up to 30 levels, I think it gets reduced to 0 completely, so you don't see the bag. But technically, a bag drops with like 0 Mezzo in it. But that depends on the multiplier. But regular items like that will just drop at the same pace, yeah. Basically, the only alternative in the past was people kind of like farming for familiars in like Forsaken Excavation Site, the Fez 2 map, right? Because especially with totems there, it was like very good spawn, and those mask guys would drop quite a lot of totems. Quite a lot of familiars. But as time has gone on, they have added more familiars, but now people are kind of in that problem when they stay in Limina very long, because going into Cernium and Olive Grandis does not have familiars. So typically people want to get all their good familiars in before that area. But the drop rate is definitely a good idea. Typically people go for a combination of drop rate and Mezzo gear. I think, especially with totems getting removed, the drop rate gear is probably comparatively more important, especially for you since your Legion is already quite established. And for you to scale up on Mezzo will be important to just, do bosses on more characters, get those CRA crystals in, that kind of stuff. And that'll be a big part of where your money comes from. And the drop rate on your gear will be more important because of, familiars being slower with the lack of totems. And nodes, right? Nodes, droplets, symbols, like those will be harder to get, of course, because monster kills per hour are going to go down quite a bit.
Yeah. And so another, I guess, question that I'm kind of looking at, I think you have some legendary familiars, but then I was
not
looking
legendary.
at...
Those are very, very difficult to get in Reboot, right? Because we cannot use the red cards. The only legendaries that exist are people who get super duper lucky from drop from Princess No, but that's like there's like 5 people or less, I think, in the server that have that. But unique ones you can make, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can just get up to unique then?
Yeah, that's the realistic, eventual goal. So typically, so that's what I put here as well. So typically in the beginning, you just reveal everything for drop rate and IED, right? IED you can get in common and rare, and then drop rate. Eventually, hopefully, you get the rare one where it says increased drop rate with no other text. That's from the rare ones. Once you have those lines, you basically don't have to reveal any of them anymore. And as long as you're focusing on pushing familiars on this character, you start, if they're different types, you just extract them because you can't do anything with them. That way you can get points, maybe for a booster pack, maybe for extra familiar essence. And then once you have a lot of the same type, because you're killing monsters in the same area a lot, then you can start trying to rank them up. So if you're in a situation where you kind of want to establish your bossing mules a little bit better, and you also want to get IED and maybe some drop rate, but probably just the IED there, you could also move those cards that you would extract, because they're all different types. You could also move them through storage first to like the bossing mules to try to get some IED there as well. Because early on, it's very, you can very easily get to 2 familiars, and then you can get 2 lines of 15% IED. That's very useful for Foundation, for bossing mule. That'll save you a lot of funding and having to get the WSE to legendary immediately,
Oh, okay.
And on that, I also wanted to mention getting that 3rd slot for your familiars. I would say that's really begins to be very useful if you're running bosses like Hard Will and you need to equip both healing familiars and maybe some IED and some boss damage, and you'd like the combination. Or if you're just actively trying to make epic familiars and unique familiars, because that can take quite a while, and then you want to be able to level up like 2 familiars at once. But now, because you don't get the familiars as quickly anymore because the totems are gone, it's probably not even that important anymore to get that 3rd slot equipped like very quickly. So I think that's okay if that takes a little bit longer and you wait until those higher level areas to get those last 2 or 3 badges.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm in terms of I know I have a bunch of a specific card, and it was more
the spiders, right? Because you're training there.
Yeah.
That looks of it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's it was a lot of I don't know, especially with the ones that I have now, like the drop rate run. I don't try and tier that up, or do I? For now.
Yeah, so if you tier up a familiar, it's the same thing as if you tier up an item with a cube. Like you'll go to the higher tier, but then you reveal it and you get a completely new roll.
Okay.
So it's like sometimes people sit on a unique item, right? Because it's like 966, and if you would tier up, you go to legendary, but then you would roll for 21 anyway. So you already have 21. Why would you pay the cost to tier up, right? So but it's okay if this is already fully what would you call this? Augmented? I don't know what the term for it is. It's like filled up, right? Because eventually you want to get the regular increased drop rate. So make sure that you reveal all the rares that you get to get like the increased drop rate one. So that'll be what you were looking for. And I don't know if you have another IED, but then when you're bossing, it's nice to have 2 IED familiars, especially since you did mention like your ID is a little bit on the lower side. So anything you can throw in there that you know, eases that a little bit. So I would still reveal all of your commons and your rares on this character and look for those 2 lines. And once you have the increased drop rate one on the rare, then you can try to rank this one up. But so ideally, you never want to be putting familiar cards into a common. Because if you look here, you can look at the energy that's required. My points obtained, blah, blah, blah. Like, basically tiering up. If the tiering up happens and you get a shitty line, which will happen most of the time, because there's also a database here with all of the potential lines and what they can be. You just see like there's 17 normal lines, 60 common lines, and like what is it, like 90 rare lines. You know, there's so many shitty ones, right?
Oh. Okay.
So what's mostly going to happen is that afterwards, when you tier it up, it's probably going to be shit, and then it's going to be what's going to happen is you're going to have to either extract it for points, or you're going to throw it in like another one to tier that one up, basically, to fill that one up. But you see, like a common gives you 10 points, a rare gives 15, and then for extracting, right? And then an epic gives 30. But you know, so if you put all of those cards into a common to get it to a rare, and then it just gives you a shitty rare line, and it becomes like, you know, you put like 100 cards. How many do you put in from common to rare? Is it like 75 or something? Or like 50? You know, you just lose so much value there. Oh yeah, 50, right? Like you're 50 rank up points and 100% chance. But it's not worth those. Like one rare is not worth 51 common cards, right? Because if you're training, you get common and rare. So since rares drop, you want to at least start with a rare to go to epic. Because otherwise you're losing a lot of value in going from commons to rares. Value that would be better spent in either revealing it on other characters to get 15% IDs or maybe a small amount of drop rate there. Or extracting for points so you can buy booster packs or familiar essences on your main character. Or to put into your rare cards to get towards epic instead. There, on all of those other cases, it would have more value. So you typically never want to level up or fuse up a common as a base familiar. But if you don't know that the familiar line re-rolls, right? Some people might think the base familiar line will just get upgraded if I tier up that familiar. Then you would want to do it, but that's not how it works.
Okay, so I mean, I guess what familiar you use doesn't really matter. It's more so what you just have, whatever you have the cards for. Like the actual familiar itself, or whatever monster it is, doesn't matter. It's just
that used to be a thing, but not anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was saying before. Like if you have a bunch of cards, but they're all, you know, they're all different types. The only thing you can really do is either move it to a mule to either reveal on the character if you're still looking for common or rare lines, move it to a mule character or something if you need ID there, or just extract them and get the points for either essence or for booster packs. I say booster packs, a lot of people forget about that, and they're quite expensive, so I don't blame people. But they have a very good chance of giving you cards that otherwise you cannot get, so they could finish up some badge sets, actually. But the secondary thing is they have a very good chance as well of giving epics sometimes. And there's even a small chance of uniques as well, so.
Okay.
So if you have, like, a lot of points, you could think about that.
I mean, I definitely... I don't have that many right now, but I do have, like, a couple stacks of cards that I can just throw at it. I was just kind of sitting on the cards.
Yeah, if they roll the same cards, I think you could definitely get more value out of making sure you reveal all the... I would reveal them all until you get another IED, right, on the commons. Then reveal only the rares to get that item drop rate. And then just start with the shitty rares that you have, throw the commons in there, and start trying to tier it up to Epic. Because Epic is what you want. Epic is when you want to get the large drop rate. So that's 100% drop rate. What you have now is 30%. And then the regular drop rate would be 50%, and this one is 100%. And the reason that you want that is because that just gives you even more cards, right? And then you can really start making unique, because in unique you have the most outs. There's not as much junk in there, and you have large ID, large drop rate as well if you want another one. Large drop in Mezzo, for example, the combination that can be useful later in Cernium when you're not really looking for items because they don't really drop there, but more for Mezzo. Large healing. What is the other one? Like item acquisition. There's a few more outs that are good there in unique. And you have to remember as well, when you make unique, your second line on the familiar that you reveal is an epic line. So there's a decent chance that epic line at least gives something as well. But until you have that large drop rate on epic, going to unique might be a little bit too soon.
Okay, so I'm still just kind of looking to get the normal drop, and
yeah, because it's all the foundation of just getting more cards first. Yeah, so reveal for normal drop and extra IED, and once you have those, throw the commons into rares, and then get the rares to epic, and then just pray, on the reveal, and probably get nothing for a long while, or get lucky on the second one and boom, have large drop rate, and then you can get rid of all the other ones. You can get rid of this one. Although, yeah, I wonder what would be the best thing to do with this one, because it's level 5 and it's fully fused, but it's a common. I guess you just rank it up and see what it gives at this point. I mean, those cards are gone, so you can get them back anyway.
Okay, so, but yeah, I'll just wait until I have at least another, until I have a drop, like a proper drop one.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Get a better drop first, and then you can do something with this one, yeah. Because it's only 30, but it's still 30, so you don't want to just give it away.
Yeah.
Okay. So you understand why, what to do with the familiars instead, and why this one was not the most optimal decision.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, not to put sword in the wound, just to make sure that you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was I'd done that just because I didn't have any rares, and I was like, I was still thinking that if I tier it up, it's just gonna rank up what it is, not just completely re-roll it and
sure
most likely screw it. So
yeah, some people have messed up really good familiars that way because they just assumed it would tier up, but yeah, that's not what happens. It's just like cubes. You have to think about it like that. It's like you're revealing, but you have no cubes to re-roll. You only have tier up cubes, basically. That's kind of what the familiar system is like.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it's so fun. Especially when you spend weeks to make 10 uniques, and you reveal them all in a minute, and they're all bad. And you're like, well, time to spend a few more weeks. Okay, you feel good on familiars?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, well, do you know so? Because I'm here now. So if there's still something you want to ask, go for it.
No, but I guess so. For your opinion, it's just hold off until I get to probably just try and push to 250 before I go and really start hammering out the badges. I know the cards themselves will drop, but just don't worry about going for all the badges until.
Yeah, and you're hyper burning, so those levels are gonna come pretty quickly anyway. So I wouldn't force it too much.
Okay.
Okay, and then the V matrix was also big, right?
Yeah.
So what are you? What can I help you with on
that? Kind of just still trying to figure out what it is and kind of what I should be I know looking for boost nodes and all that. But I think when I was looking at the Cadena one, it was very very much just everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's probably a few more important than others, right? That you want to prioritize slightly. You don't want to begin your matrix by like putting in 12 boost nodes because of how good your skill nodes are, obviously. But eventually you want to max it all. Yeah.
So I guess my thing is like, my question would be sort of what should I be looking at, sort of thing. Like, I know I have, like, I know I'm slowly just trying to get them up to 60.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm trying. You only want 2 nodes with with each skill, I think.
Yeah. So every skill can be boosted up to 60 levels, right? And every node can be leveled up to 25 max. So the way it works out is that you have a 25 node in a level 5 slot that goes up to 30, and then 2 30s make 60. So as long as you have it in 2 different nodes, and both of those are max nodes in level 5 slots, you'll get to that 60. And then that's the way you optimize, because the slots are very valuable, right? Because if you put in too many nodes and you go to like level 80, it's going to get scaled down to 60, and then that takes a slot away for maybe like a skill node that could be very useful.
Okay, and skill node wise, I've seen I've seen people saying to use like last resort and stuff like that. There's a lot of them where like I don't have it on because like I don't know sort of which skill nodes or like special nodes if you ever want to use special nodes.
Yeah, special nodes are they're very situational, highly situational. There's like 3 main things with special nodes, I would say. There's one for training, which is like character building 1. If you have a lot of slots and you have a lot of nodes, you might craft those with your shards, but special nodes only last a week, right? And you only get like a fifth or something of the shards back at the end of the week, so it's really a drain. So while you're still actively building your nodes, they're probably not too much of a bother to look at. You've got one that's specifically for bossing, it's called Fatal Strikes. But yeah, I think it's like 100% damage for 2 seconds every 30 seconds or something like that. So it's just to min-max a little bit. Some people might use that if they're very weak and they... not very weak, sorry, but if they're trying to do hard lucid and they're very close to maybe failing, and everyone needs to squeeze out all the damage they can, you have a free slot, then you can throw that in. And then, well, I think archers lose a slightly different one that gives critical rate instead, because it helps more with Fish's Shot or something. But you're not an archer, so you're good. And then there's one that's called, that's a good one. What is it actually called? It's something with heal. It's like full heal something. This is typically when you're like practicing the bosses. Auto recovery 2 is what it's called. It will fully recover your HP every 30 seconds. That's when it's typically used if you're doing a very high level boss, or survivability isn't all a problem, or you have the slot for it and you might as well give yourself a little bit more survivability. Those are really like the only 3 that are really used. But most of the time, you really want to start maybe thinking about them once you get to like the lowest level of the slots available here. So once you're like past once you reach like 250 or something, and then beyond, because that's typically when you got like all the boost nodes, all the vital skill nodes kind of like figured out, and that's when you start branching into like, do I go into an extra decent skill that I have to press it once in a while, because those skills are all passive, right? Those special nodes, so you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to put them on a key; they'll just trigger automatically. So that way, it's nice extra value without needing to worry about it too much. Yeah, as for priority on the boost nodes, is it 5? Is it 5? Let me check. You have 1, 2. Oh, 1. Oh, that's 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 skills. And beat down 1 boost, everything else 2 boosts. So 7, 2, 14, 15, 5 boost nodes, yeah. So is that what you have? 1 beat down and everything else twice? No, I think you have 2 beat downs at least, right?
I may have 2 beat downs, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that top one here on the first one, and the left one on the second one. And the second one starts with beatdown, so and it's already level 15, so we don't want to have to do anything with that. So it seems like we want to get a replacement for the level 14 that you have there in the level on the top row. What else is in there with them? Crush and brick. Okay, so we need to find which other boost node is under level right now, which would be daggers, right? So ideally you want to get a dagger in that level 14 boost node instead of the beatdown, and then you'll be good.
So then it would be dagger, brick, and crush.
And crush, yeah. So crush is the main skill, so that one is locked in. So it'll be crush with either with dagger brick or brick dagger. So you'll only have 2 outs there, but that's really the only replacement you're looking for. And then you look, then it looks golden. At least for the when it comes.
And
to
I would
boost
just
nodes,
throw
yeah.
a new. I would just throw a new like a skill node in there, or.
Well, so the skill nodes are the blue ones, right? So we're talking about the boost nodes, right? The gray ones.
The boost nodes, yeah.
Yeah. So if you do find one of those two, the crush top and then brick dagger in any order, then you can basically just right click. What you want to do is you want to unlock this one that you have right now, and then just right click the other one to enhance, and then just use the level 14 to enhance the existing one, and all the EXP will be transferred over.
Okay. But it has to be the same main skill.
Exactly, yeah. So because you're basically just doing the same thing as you're doing now, right? How do you level this one up? By right-clicking, enhance, and then clicking another thing with the same main skill, right? So you're basically just doing the same thing. You're just switching which one is the source boost node and which one is the enhancing boost node.
Okay. To be brutally honest, I didn't fully understand what was making me upgrade them, because it looked like a lot of the times it was like two skills were the same.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So it's if you hover over it, it's really inconsistent, but when it comes to the picture, it's on the bottom left. That's what determines what node it is. If you hover over it and you see the 3 lines, you see the 3 stats mentioned, it's whichever one is on top, right? And if you see the name on top all the way, it's whichever name is mentioned last for some reason. So you see here the picture, you see the big red swipe, right, on stream?
Yeah.
So that's the main one. That one is called Creeping Terror, Blissful Restraint, Endless Agony. So that one is with the picture, the first 3 that's mentioned. And if you see the top name, it says Abyssal Surprising, Creeping Terror, Blissful Restraint, Endless Agony, like as the last, for some reason.
Oh,
but
okay.
That's the one that determines, yeah. Yeah.
And so I would just basically craft a bunch of nodes that have crush as the main one, and just.
So there's options there. You have a lot of nodes already. So you're probably in a good position. You probably have a lot of boost nodes, I think, that you can get rid of and turn into shards, because you don't have to worry at all. Like if you just right click your existing ones and just level these up. Well, first of all, I would look if you have that node at all. Maybe you have it. Right? Starting with crush and with and you have a search function now, right? So you should be able to
so I just look at crush.
Boost node filter, skill 1, yeah, and then skill 1 put in crush, and then you probably already have way fewer options left. You can even see if you have it right now. That would be really nice.
I don't have it as my main skill.
Okay.
I have other ones that are like I have the same 3 that I want, but with I think daggers or something being the main one.
Yeah, you don't have a dagger main yet, so you could hold on to that one. So typically my rule of thumb is that you don't want to be extracting nodes that are over level like 7, 8, 9 maybe at the highest, because if you extract, you do get reduced shards back depending on how many you've thrown in there. That's why I prefer like the transfer over, because then 100% of the value is being transferred over. But if in like I don't know, like a month or 2 you still haven't found it and it's like approaching level 23 or something already, you're like like I want to switch this over, or it would be that level and you're still at level 14 but you have a whole bunch of crush ones and you don't want to throw them in there. because you don't have it, right? At that point, you could also say like, I'm gonna do the dagger, and like kind of like rip off the band-aid, and it sucks to have to extract it one, but at least then you're done and you can move on from that that ordeal. But since it's already 14, ideally I would like to see you find that that combination. But it's tricky, right? Because it's only 2 possibilities, and you have a whole bunch of skill possibilities. So it's low outs. And to get back to your question on crafting, I wouldn't craft boost nodes. I would craft node stones. Have you ever done that?
No, I don't think so.
So on characters like Cadena, where you need a lot of different boost nodes and all of the skill nodes are still unmaxed, you have a lot of outs on just opening a node stone, right? The average value you get for opening a node stone is relatively high. So when you think about a node stone, you can craft those for 35 shards. If you craft the boost node, it's 70. A skill node is, I believe, 140. And then a special node is 250. So if you open up a lot of node stones, the average return is super high, right? Because the only thing right now that is 10 is if it starts with one of the non-5 skills that you have, but you only have 8, right? So because there's 8 skills.
Oh, okay.
And 5 of those are your prime. So there's only 3 possible boost nodes that you might have to extract where you only get 10 shards back for extracting. All the other ones are either 70 value, right? Because that's what it would cost you to craft them. Or 140 if it's a skill node that you probably need. There's only a few you don't need there. There's like, what is it? Decent hyper body, decent mystic door, and that's about it. And maybe the dupes, right? Because you don't necessarily want to level the decent skills. Especially if you have auto buff, they'll just have 100% uptime, so you don't need to level them too much. The only exception there being decent holy symbol. So you get a lot of value return for node stones. So if you go to node crafting, and you'll see it's a huge button, but everyone looks over it. There's craft node stone on the right side there. And it'll basically allow you to craft node stones with the shards that you have, and it only costs 35 each. So then you can just open up all the node stones again, see what you get, and enhance the ones that you have, extract the ones you don't need, and then craft again. You can do like 3 or 4 rounds usually of getting all of it done. Yeah. So I think for now, because you have so many nodes, I think it'd be a good idea to go through and check. So since you have the dagger, maybe keep all the daggers. If you're like, I'm okay with just, extracting the level 14, just keeping the dagger and being done right now so that you can settle in this, I would be okay with that, honestly, because you have it. It might be a whole bunch of struggling until you finally get the other one, but it is already level 14, so it's a little bit up to you.
I think I do have quite a few of the dagger ones as well, where I could probably get it up to maybe not 14, but
yeah, with how many screens you have, probably like level 8, 9, or 10 pretty quickly, I think, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it's up to you. I think either way is fine. But yeah, I'm not telling you like you have to suffer like another month of opening node stones and possibly not get it because it's only 2 outs. Yeah, we could calculate the odds of getting, one specific one, but it's pretty low. So if you're like, fuck it, I'll just take the dagger, extract level 14, and get started there. That's totally fine. Because then you're done. Then you can extract all the leftover node stones. We could go through the skill nodes real quickly, so you know what to do with those. So Blink is eventually useful, so you definitely want to lock that one and level it up if you have spares.
Okay.
Rope Lift, same thing, but lower priority, because it does give stat eventually, so eventually you'll want it. Same thing with the Bind. Eventually you'll probably want multi-binds on your character. Even if you have lower cooldown, possibly for like multi-form, like multi-body bosses. Like if you're doing Lotus, for example, you want to be able to bind the second phase and then the third base right after, for example, since they're different phases, right? Or with Chaos Crimson Queen, for example, if she gives you trouble, a different body is a different form, or different form is a different body, I should say, is a different boss, essentially. So they have different bind timers. And you can see that now specifically with the debuff, right? If you don't see the debuff for the bind underneath our HP bar, that means that you can bind again. and that might make
Okay.
certain annoying bosses easier to kill. So that one I would also level up, because the cooldown goes down as you level it up, and lock that one as well. Are you using auto buff?
I am. I'm
Yeah.
using auto buff on 2. So right now I have auto buff for just my decents, and then just because I'm lazy right now, I have it for my weapon booster and just like Nova Warrior. But
Well, then I would keep honestly most of the decent skills just at level 1, and just extract the other ones just to get those value shards, because they just give almost nothing for leveling them. So if you just keep one decent speed infusion, and I would try to get speed infusion in there, specifically because it still gives you attack speed, and because of your comboing, your weaving, and your general attack speed, getting used to how your character works, I think it's good to try to always be on your highest attack speed. So that means having decent speed infusion on, boosters are now passive, but also having green pot on to always hit that highest attack speed. That way you can most reliably like reproduce your combos.
okay, and would it?
So I'll probably put it
I
in.
know
Yeah.
I know decent speed infusion is like, because it's just one level, right?
Yes.
So how do I know what sort of my weapon speed is in terms of like how close I would be to getting to, I guess, 0?
So I believe what you need as a Cadena is just all of the regular stuff, decent speed infusion, and a green pot, and you're done.
Okay.
So we have, there's an X-Deck speed command that someone in my community has made. You can always check this if you want to. Cadena's here. So you see your base attack speed is 4, booster takes off 2, and then green pot takes it to 1, and then decent speed infusion takes it to 0, and that's the lowest you can get.
Okay. And then decent speed infusion, you just slap on an auto buffer and...
Exactly, and then just forget about it, yeah. And then sometimes if you log off when it's a little bit on cooldown, you log in, it might take a minute, or 2 to get back on, but you'll be fine.
Or every time I try and do Culvert and everything, where I'd log in and...
Yeah. You gotta go in there and then wait in the pre culvert map for it to come off cooldown. So in the culvert pre map, then it'll immediately activate, and yeah, exactly.
Just gotta time everything properly.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think the will skill is useful currently?
It's probably one of the lesser useful ones. But it might depend a little bit on the scenario. Nah, Maelstrom. You need like your skill notes for all the things. It probably at this point probably is the will skill is probably the one to get out for speed infusion. It's totally fine if that is out for a little bit more, yeah.
And do I have to level up speed infusion or no?
No, so when it comes to the only decent skills I think that you will use in order is probably decent speed infusion and decent sharp eyes, and then decent combat orders, and then decent advanced blessing. Combat orders is also like, like the special notes, probably comes in like the lowest row here of this page, and then decent advanced blessing probably only comes in once you get to the second page of of skill notes, of your matrix, I mean, right? Because like once you fill this whole one up, so that's like 265 plus or something, then that's where decent blessing is. But yeah, so look, like I have a level 24 decent speed infusion from back in the day, and mine lasts 252 seconds with a cooldown of 180, like 200% uptime instead of 103 or something, right? And it gives you +5 all stats at this level, But if you compare that, for example, with Blink, like Blink at level 25 gives you 25 weapon and magic attack. And Rope Lift at level 25 would give you +25 all stat. So those are the ones that you want to keep just slowly leveling up if you want to min-max later. But the decent skills just really don't give you anything there. The only decent skill you really want to level is Holy Symbol, because it gives you higher percentage drop rate and higher percentage EXP.
Okay, and so just to sort of go back to the dagger one, I want dagger, crush, and then brick.
Yes.
Okay, and I think if I do that and I enhance it, I believe I can get up to 12. So I think if that's, you just send it.
Yeah. So yeah, you can right click enhance it and just do all, right, and see how far it goes.
Yeah, so it goes to 12.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, send that.
Okay.
Extract the 14. I don't know how much you get from a 14. You get like, oh my god, I was to guess like 600 shards, 500. You have to unlock it first probably before you can.
Yeah. 387.
Oh god, that's depressing. Yeah. Well, just tear off the band-aid, move on. We're good.
And then same thing though with like for the most part now, I guess I would just do the actual node stones.
Yeah, so I think would be a good idea now to go just through all the nodes and just clean that up like completely. So like so you have a locked and you have a single locked and one that you're gonna level rope lift, right? A single locked speed infusion, and then the other ones can be extracted, right? Single locked blink, and then a locked and leveled Urdanova. And then if you have Urda's Will, you want to level that one up as well, if you can, and lock one of those, with the one that you leveled, preferably. Urda's Will come in later for negating hard CCs, like, combat status resistance, right? Basically block you and cleanse as well. It's going to take a while before that comes in, but when it does come in, you want it at high level because it has a horrible cooldown on it otherwise. So that's one you want to level. The Urda's, if you have Urda's Shower, that one is going to become useful. That just changed in ignition, right?
Yeah.
So that is a summon into Urda Fountain. So you can level that one up as well. It'll do more damage, so make sure you lock that one.
So when does it upgrade? Or when does it turn into...
I use a down arrow when you cast it, and then it'll summon as the fountain instead of as the shower. So instead of an AoE around you, it'll just be a positioning tool. And then every 10 monsters you kill, it'll activate and kill monsters or damage monsters around it.
Okay, because I was so confused. I was trying to figure out how it worked, and
yeah, they started adding a lot of utility to skills, and you see this in a lot of other classes as well, where if you activate a skill with the up arrow key or with the down arrow key, that you'll get like a different function of the same skill. And I think it's pretty cool because it's a very easy alteration to make to the casting to get a completely new function without having to have like extra skills or always having to change the passive, and then you can only get it one certain way when you cast it. You know, if you like, there's a bunch of skills as well that you have to right click in the skill window, but then they come out only that way. So I think it's cool to have like the arrow key alteration to it, so you can have that functionality in it. I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you have any decent mystic doors, you can get rid of those. Any decent hyper bodies, you can get rid of those. If you have decent combat orders or advanced blessing, just keep one, and you can extract the other ones, just the same way that you did the speed infusion. And then you can extract basically all the boost nodes you have now, right? Because I assume that you've tried to level up all your existing boost nodes that are equipped.
Yeah.
So then all the other boost nodes that are left, you can equip, get rid of all of the other ones. And then probably any special nodes that you have, you can extract all of those. And then you should have probably like at most 2 dots left on the bottom for your all nodes once you extract all of that. And hopefully have somewhere around like 2,000 shards or something.
What about... So I have...
Yeah, anyone I mentioned, go for it, because I don't know.
So I have Last Resort.
Yes.
Do I want to level that up?
Yeah, level it up and lock. That's definitely, yeah, that's one of your bursting skills later. So once you get better, and you get, you know, more familiar with not dying to things, Last Resort will give you a lot of burst damage, and it just gives a lot of final damage, but it makes you take more damage. But definitely get that one. The Venom burst, I don't know if you level that as a Cadena. You do use it eventually, because Cadena gets more critical damage the more debuffs are on a target. So all of your own skills give a debuff, but Venom burst is an extra debuff, so that's an extra critical damage debuffer. But I don't think they level it, but maybe keep those for now. That might be a question for the Cadena Discord.
And then like the Grandest Goddess.
Yeah,
blessing.
Grandest Goddess level up, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
And then you have the door thing, right? The big,
the might of the Nova or whatever.
Level that one, because that's yeah, you can't use the skill very often, but it's an insane amount of damage. Like that's the first skill that caps for Cadenas. You can hit like 150 bill lines, just like a whole wall of damage. Eventually.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so then you would actually use it as damage.
Yeah, you'll use it as damage eventually. Yeah. Like doing a BA, slam it in just to cheat a little bit. Yeah. And you have that cool, cooldown reduction, right, on the inner ability. That's really good. So You do want to be careful if you're doing like BAs and stuff, because if you just get lucky and you get like 6 bat resets, you want to make sure that you tone it down a little bit for the BA to keep it realistic, because that's not always going to happen, right?
Yeah. I have found there's like a few times where I'll actually mess up my combo because I'll be spamming something and then all of a sudden like I'll use Scimitar 3 times and I'm halfway across the map. I'm like, oh, I was
Zoom,
not
zoom, zoom.
was not expecting that.
Yeah. I gotta animation cancel properly, otherwise you're just zooming around, yeah. But yeah, then I don't know if that could help, but are you familiar with skill alarm?
Yes. I have a few of them
Mm-hmm.
on.
Some of them probably have too short a cooldown, so you can't put them in, I'm guessing, right? If their cooldown
I
is, I think if the base cooldown is too short, you can't put them in the alarm. I think it's only 3 seconds though. If it's lower than 3.
Yeah, because I was able to throw a Scimitar in. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yeah, 3 seconds or lower.
Yeah, 3 seconds. Yeah.
But it's I mean this is definitely
Any other
trying to
yeah, any other skill nodes that you saw?
um
Or is that all of them?
I think that's pretty much all of them that I have. I'm down to once I enhance these, and I just fully enhance the one last resort.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, everything is probably like somewhere between like level 5 and level 8 or something, I imagine, for your skill nodes.
Yeah, my last resort's 6 now, and now I'm kind of just down to the one block.
Just one block now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
so,
down to I think 2, 4, 6, 10 skills or 10 nodes at the bottom.
Nice. And you got like what, 3,000 shards?
1,300, but
1,300?
yeah.
Wow, not as nearly as good. But now you can craft node stones with that, right? So it's like
And then just do the same thing.
So you can craft like 30, what is it, like 36 nodes or something?
39. And then I
close
guess
enough.
just
Yeah, you can just open them all again, level up the existing again, extract the leftovers. And you could do that like 2 times over, until you have like 2 nodes to open, whatever. But this way, the average value per node stone and per shard will go up quite a bit. And in general, if you have a character that needs a lot of boost nodes and you're still working on the skill nodes as well, this is how you get the most value. So the downside could be that your boost nodes get kind of forgotten a little bit because they will get disproportionately slower level, right? Because more shards are going to skill nodes disproportionately. But if you have a big legion, that's a good cushion to have. Because in the long term, you're going to max out all your stuff way faster. In the short term, if you're just beginning, especially if you only need like 2 boost nodes or something, then you're more likely to open a whole bunch of boost nodes that you need to extract, and then that value, that return on those boost nodes is going to be lower, right? So then you do want to craft the boost nodes. Does that balance make sense?
Yeah. And is there any? I don't need to get necessarily any more. Like I'm not going to be adding any more boost nodes, or will I?
No. Now you have all of them. Yeah.
Okay, so it is just going to be these 5.
Yeah, if all of these are maxed. So the one thing I would do though is probably move your boost nodes all into. It kind of depends on where does the most of your damage come from, but eventually you want to make sure that the level that the boost nodes all go into leveled up slots, right? So you definitely want to level those slots next. But that could be a question maybe more specifically for the Cadena Discord. I don't know if they'll say like all of the boost nodes 100% always have to be in leveled up slots, or if they'll say like, these 3 skills are maybe the most important to be in leveled up slots, and then these other or these boost nodes, and then these other skills like skill nodes have to be leveled up. Because like Maelstrom is very useful, of course, right? You're just kind of like letting that sit there and destroy the whole thing. But since it's already 19, maybe it's already killing comfortably. I know the cannon does a lot of your damage, but that's mostly for bossing. On mobbing, I'm assuming it destroys everything, whether it's leveled up or not, right? So maybe switching out those for the boost nodes could actually overall increase your damage and make sure that you can one-shot more easily when you're mobbing, or bring your general damage up when you're bossing, for example. That's possible, but I don't know how important that is. So that could be a question for Cadena Discord as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm very thankful for the V matrix, because that it's very overwhelming when you're looking at it. And I mean, as much as I was trying to look at the and even looking at a bunch of other people's like charts of what skill nodes you need, and it
They'll
just
have the different combos, right? And then you're like,
yeah,
oh
it
god,
just
do I need to
slaps
move them?
everything.
Yeah. Do you need to change them? Is it really that important? Usually if you're this far in and you have this many slots, you can be way more liberal with like what you pick and where you put it. It's usually if you need this many boost nodes and you're like level 210, right? And you're not hyper burning, it's like you can't really just put in 5 boost nodes because then you can only take like 1 or 2 skill nodes and you kind of, you know, and then you lose a lot of damage there. What are you going to do? Like put level 3 boost node in instead of a skill node? That's probably not worth it. But level 14 boost node instead of like a skill node that maybe only works on mobbing or only on bossing, that might be able to be moved around, right?
And then, so what would you say would be changes in terms of like my next? So once I hit 240, once I unlock my next
The next slot?
Yeah, the next slot, would I just throw in like rope lift or something, or blink?
No. So I mean, blink can be useful on Lucid. So for that boss specifically, you could throw that one in, right? Because then if you can get some vertical air, you can keep in the air and blink over the dragon breath, so you could survive some deaths with that. But typically, other than that, blink is really useful in like very, very late bosses or just for the stats of it, which means it'll have to be a very high level for it to be useful. So blink is mostly also like lowest level here, like lowest row I would say here, or like first row on the second page, or like specific utility like in Lucid maybe. Same thing like with rope lift. It'll probably be for mobbing. You probably throw in the Arachnid Reflection again. And then for bossing, it'll be one of your burst skills. So either Last Resort or the Goddess Blessing. Typically, the Goddess Blessing needs to be pretty high level to be efficient. And the Last Resort is like final damage-wise pretty efficient at a low level already. Plus, it's good to get used to because you take more damage. So it's good to get used to working on the timing on that when you're bossing. So probably, yeah, Last Resort on bossing. And then, of course, if you're bossing, you could also choose to take out Holy Symbol and just put in both of those for extra burst. And then at the end, you know, a lot of the harder bosses have those have the boss room, right? Then you can always throw Holy Symbol in for like one of your boost nodes to cast it to make sure that it's available, or instead of one of your skill nodes that's available, and then switch it back after, something like that.
Okay, and I would basically bind, cast Last Resort, and then cast it again, like do the second cast immediately, or?
I think Last Resort changed now as well in Ignition, where you can immediately go to the second phase. I think also, oh, it didn't change yet. Oh, they're changing it soon though. That I think with the down arrow, like the same thing we talked about, that you can immediately cast it and it immediately goes into the second phase. But I think what most people do is just immediately, get it twice. What they wanted to change it to though is to immediately go to the second phase because everyone does it anyway, and then make it so that if you accidentally press it again, it can't accidentally take it off. Because sometimes if you're like spamming because you're like on bad ping or something, sometimes people might press it 3 times, and if all 3 go through, then you cancel it. And it's like, oh, yeah, I wanted to.
Oh, so you can actually just cancel it. That's not
now still, yeah. But I think that change is coming soon. That it's I think that's the first update after Ignition, so that's probably February 7th. Yeah, so that's another month and a half, 2 months ish of suffering. Soon TM, yeah. But it seems like a lot of people in chat are waiting for that change, yeah, because it needs that quality of life update for sure.
And then Venom Burst, would you ever actually use like the skill itself, or is it just for the passive?
The passive gives the poison debuff. Yeah, and
it's like bonus dot chance and stuff.
Yeah. Maybe the chance goes up. Well, let me just Google. But I think you don't level that one. But yeah, no, you just as long as the debuff is on the boss, then you're good.
Okay, because it's just a little bit more crit.
Yeah, I believe you do 5% crit. damage per debuff on the boss, I believe. Yeah, it seems like the dodge chance does not go up. It stays 50%. Yeah.
But you don't care about the active at all?
No, you don't care about the active at all, no. It's a really weird thing that they didn't rework that skill at all in Destiny or in Ignition. It's just a really dead skill. Cadena is the only one that uses it, and you don't even use the active, you just use the passive. Like, that's the limit of the utility of that skill in the whole game. So why it exists in its current state is a mystery. I think they maybe just forgot about it, yeah. No, it looks like it doesn't gain any duration or any chance to proc, so I'm pretty sure you keep it level 1. Unless that triggers you. You know, some people probably need to level it just because it looks weird if it have a level 1 skill. But I'm pretty sure they're going to say just to extract the other ones.
Okay, and then I'm just basically maxing... am I just hoping that I get decent holy symbol in the node stones and stuff?
Yeah, either that or experienced nodes, right? You've got the Clover shop next month, so maybe throw some of those in there.
Okay. It is worth it to throw just to get it up to 25 as quickly as
I would
possible?
say so. It's EXP and I wouldn't. So I typically don't max out things to 25 very much. I usually get things to like 21, 22, something like that. And then as I'm opening nodes, it'll eventually get to 25. It's a little bit of a slower process, but again, if you have a big legion, a lot of links, you can kind of cut corners like that, because in the end, you'll get there more efficiently, because all of your nodes are going to, you know, they're going to level, they're going to max around the same time. The sooner a node maxes, the better for your damage, but the more likely that you're going to get the node again in the future, and then you have to fully extract it, and then you lose value when you actually hit something that could have been an out before, right? So it kind of depends on how patient you are and how many nodes you have to play around with. Someone with 4,000 nodes might be like, fuck it, I'm just going to, you know, max everything like that. I'm just going to extract extra. But someone who's, you know, a little bit lower on the nodes and a little bit more of a cheapskate like me, a little bit more frugal, will be a little bit more careful with that.
Okay, yeah, because I know, especially with the totems being gone, like, it's going to be a little bit more... of a pain in the ass to get the nodes. Although I think the drop rate has been increased a little bit, but
I've heard people, and also the last levels of Holy Symbol are a little bit weird because of how the percentages work. It's like between level 26, you've got 33 EXP and 22 drop, and then 30 is 35 EXP and 24 drop. So it's like between like level 24 and 30, you gain 3% EXP and 2% drop. You know, for the last 6 levels. And those last 6 levels are the most expensive ones, right? So I think you're totally fine even having it like, you know, at like 18, 19, 20 maybe. That's probably already pretty good. And then it'll slowly eventually max out, you know. It's specifically good, I think, if you're trying to play a lot of characters. You know, it's better to have like 6 characters that all have like level 16 nodes rather than have like 3 of them that have level 25 nodes, and then all the other ones have like level 4 nodes. That's how I look at it, basically. But yeah, it depends on how much you go in depth, right, into one character, or in width in your account in multi-characters. Okay,
and I just want to, because I'm gonna just quickly lock, because I just opened up a couple. So door is gone. Like door is just immediately gone.
Yeah.
I do want advanced busing though.
So that's just like a 1 is enough, because it's not worth leveling. So if you have 1, you can lock it, and then any spares you can extract. Just like extra, you know, decent sharp eyes, decent speed infusion, decent combat orders. It's not worth leveling. Sorry.
Okay, and I do want combat orders as well.
Yeah, just a level 1, because it's really nice. It gives you +1 passives on your fourth job skills, and that's where most of your strong passives and your main attacking skills are. So they will go up in base damage, and you'll get sometimes extra crit rate, critical damage, boss damage, some stuff like that. Sometimes final damage.
Okay.
Extra level of mastery, right, increases your minimum damage a little bit.
I don't want that. Okay, and then just the rest is. I just basically go through and try and level up my nodes, and if they don't level up, then just extract them.
Yeah, you get the extract all button, right? So as long as you lock all the right ones, you could just do extract all, and then boom, or select all and then extract, and then get through whole swaths of nodes like that.
make sure that I have everything locked before I do that, because I
Yeah.
can see myself just.
Oh yeah. Wouldn't be the first, wouldn't be the last.
Okay, so there's not that many, and I guess it's just as I unlock more slots, it'll be like more bursty. Like my burst skills will go in there, and then after a while, it's just gonna be kind of like the door, or the, like, would I want to do that at maybe 245 ish, where I have a little bit.
The Mystic Door?
No, the Might of the Nova.
Oh, that one. Yeah. So yeah, it counts as a door, right? Like an extra life. It's really once you start doing the harder bosses solo. So for most people, it's like when you start moving into doing like hard Lotus, hard Damien, Gloom, like those bosses. So that's more like the first to second half of the 250s, like 250 to 255 ish. Around that level is when people start using it.
Because yeah, like I mean, I think I have a. So I'd go Last Resort, and then maybe.
You Goddess Blessing, because it's good damage, but also you have a chance for a cooldown skip on it, extra. So that plus your passive will get you a lot of bats, and that gives you a lot of extra damage as a Cadena.
Oh, okay. Right. Forgot about that.
Yeah. If you get really lucky, you get like a whole bunch of resets, and you're just spamming the shit out of it. It's like a whole lot of damage. And if you're unlucky, you're just, you get like 2, and then you're done.
Is it just a passive, or is it like an actual?
Yeah, I believe you get like a certain amount of charges on it. Nova Goddess Blessing. Grandest Goddess Blessing. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Effects. This one. God damn it. Also not this one. Where's the...
Because I mean, just kind of reading the skill, it doesn't. Oh, okay. Never mind. It has a
Yeah, it's used for like 3 different classes, right? So you have to read all the way down to the Nova part. The anima is just disappointing. It's like 100% knockback resistance. Wow, we already have that. And then at max, it's 40% damage. And then Lara gets final damage upon activating Dragon Vein Echo, so it's kind of nice. And then Hoyoung just gets more energy charge, but they're already like using everything, so that really doesn't help them much at all. So it's basically a 40 damage for 40 seconds on a 4-minute recharge, so that's not that good. But for me as an arc, it's I would have to do the maths again now because I have the liberated weapon, but I think it's something like 400 weapon attack for 40 seconds, so it's like that's pretty good. Basically doubling my weapon attack, So that's really nice. And for Nova, it's a little bit hit or miss. But if you, so skills have a 55% chance to bypass cooldown as many as 6 times if it's maxed. If it's all the way level 30.
Okay.
So you could, if you're lucky, you could get like 7 bats in a row. And 35% damage.
Okay, so I guess that would probably be one of the next ones to put in, just to try and get used to that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sometimes working. It's really when you start min-maxing on your burst, so you're doing like those party bosses that really require everyone to kind of pull their weight, or those solo bosses where, you're binding and, the reason that you're binding is because you need to confirm damage, otherwise the boss run either takes forever or you just can't kill it within the time that's available to you.
Okay, and so then what else? What was I did have a question, now I forget. If I have the opportunity to get an arcane weapon, is it worth it to like skip out, like just completely skip over the Apso and?
Yeah, I mean, short answer, yes. The things you would have to think about is, can you realistically kill monsters now, right? Can you kill all the bosses around your level right now without like too much trouble? And therefore, is the next upgrade necessary, or just would it be cool? Like, jumping to an Abso weapon, is that something that you just absolutely need because you're struggling? Or is it something that just would be cool because damage number would go up? If it's more the second, then waiting a little bit longer, but then making a double jump would be advisable. And this goes for every single upgrade, right? If you can get by with your current state and it's not super necessary, holding and then making a bigger jump instead of making 2 steps is always more efficient, right? Because you'll start spending bigger clumps of money, which means the chance of failure is lower, which means you're most likely to spend it during an event, right? Because you're holding longer, so you can spend it at the right time. Plus, you might have more backups, which gives you more options, and you can spend it in a more efficient way as well. So, waiting, the further you go in the game, the more optimal waiting becomes, basically.
Okay, and because I know, like, I have my boots are still just the normal Magnus boots, because I was like, I just kind of needed boots. Like,
sure.
I mean, I know, like, once I get a couple more Lotus kills, if I can actually survive it. I've died out 2 weeks in a row now, where it's just been really frustrating. But so is it? I may as well get the Apso, like, finish the 5 set.
Yeah.
Or is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're like balls deep into a Tyrant Cape or something, you can definitely skip that. But if you're in the situation you're in now, I would do that. Yeah.
Okay, just try and get to the full Apso and.
Yeah. You have something to use those 15-star scrolls on, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And then, so, I guess, for the Shining Sunday, do I just... Is it worth it to push everything to, like, get everything to 15-star and then push for 17?
Yeah,
like,
you
get everything baseline 15 and then...
Yeah, you probably would do well to push out 16s as a goal, because the 16 is so free compared to the 15, right? And then once you got most of the 16s ready, then you can always circle back and see if you can make some 17s.
And I got my Dom pendant up to, like, legendary and everything, and
I see that.
It was just I was just obviously for now, because I'm still a ways away from getting a Sweetwater pendant. Would it be worth it to get a second Dom pendant to try and
It's always worth to get more Dom pendants, so always keep doing normal arc every day. The path I see for this pendant is probably just stay the damaging pendant until you get full superior, because you don't have that yet, right?
Yeah, I have none of it right now.
Yeah, that's the next big step, right? And that's where that ID is coming from. That's where the boss damage is coming from. So it's possibly something the 15-star scroll as well, right? So you don't have to worry about fodder for that either without having to safeguard and all that bullshit. So until you switch to full superior, this is just your damage pendant. Once you switch to full superior, then it'll probably be, so I would get this one to 16 and keep it at 16 stars. There's 2 choices that you can make. If you get another Dominator in the meantime, I would flame on that one. If that one gets a flame that's like slightly better than this one, but not quite the 105 plus flame score that you're looking for, then what you could do is you can reflame this one and then transpose it, and then turn the other one into drop rate gear. If the other one does get a really good flame, then I would get the other one to 16 and transpose that one, and then remake this one into drop gear.
Okay, because when I transpose it, I'm gonna lose the potential, right?
Potential will reroll, yeah.
Okay.
But the tier will stay, but you'll lose the lines within it, yeah. So it's very likely that it'll... Yeah, stay legendary.
The tier will stay. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So
yeah, on transposing.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why it's okay to get Dominator like the legendary if you want to, because it can function as a damage piece or as a drop or meso piece for quite a while, and then it'll transpose, and then you'll have to re-roll it anyway, right? So, yeah.
Okay.
But it's not quite at the flame where you want, but it is at a flame where it's a pretty big a loss if you roll something shitty over it. So, I would flame on a secondary one, and then see where that one goes, and let that determine what happens to this one.
Okay, yeah. And do I just go straight for superior? I know I want a reinforced ring as well. Do I go for full superior first and then get the reinforced after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it already takes long enough to get to superior, so I wouldn't let yourself get slowed down too much.
Okay. That definitely helps sort of get me in a
Yeah, I think
an actual direction.
people jump on reinforced a little bit too early, I think, and then yell that Meister is no longer necessary. I'd rather skip the reinforced because it's barely stronger, and then work on Meister if you can, if you have the resources, and then circle back to reinforced all the way later when you have enough coins to do so. I prefer to keep my coins for superior and for backup superior to make sure that that superior set is just on lock, and then as rings just use like superior kind of treasure, and then Meister, and then maybe slime, maybe even solid, you know, maybe just something else, maybe an Oz ring if you go into that stuff. And then you can always circle back to for 21 or 22 reinforced once you're just min-maxing at that level, because you'll have the Gollux coins at that point. Yeah, for boss mules I would do reinforced, yeah, if you're, because it's way cheaper, way faster to get, and it's really close in damage. It's only 15 ID less, or 15 ID less. So for boss mules, reinforced is quite perfect.
Okay. And I would I do want Oz rings, I guess. Like I guess every class probably wants the Oz rings.
Burstier you are, the better. And if you're more DPM, that just means you kind of want two rings. You want the weapon jump ring and you want the roar. But yeah, and again, you can see that in the dailies grid as well. But like Oz does come in for sure. But I have Oz, I think, at like 250 plus. Yeah, before you kind of need to start thinking about that, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's when those, you know, hard lucid, hard will, you're moving into like Tenebris stuff, or like, you know what I talked about, like soloing, like the hard lotus, hard Damien, gloom stuff. Then you really you need to be carrying your weight like hardcore at that point, and then you want to start looking at it, I would say. If you love the content, of course, you can do it as early as you want, but at that point, I would say definitely start considering it.
And yeah, I'm gonna have to look at some guides for it, because...
Yeah, you could probably have one. !Oz. Boom, there you go. Dexless.com. Yeah, it's got a pretty comprehensive guide. Should be up to date with all the new. This might be. I don't wonder if it's outdated. They usually just make updates in the guide itself. Published Monday. Oh, last Monday. But yeah, usually they keep you got like all the floors, text clues. Like, eat your heart out, like. I hope this is... And 200 floors. So what you could do is you could do 50 floors like 3 times, then you could do 49 floors or 46 or something, and then do another run. Like as long as you haven't done 200, you can enter, and then you can finish your run.
Okay.
But yeah, 50, I've never gone that far, but like 50 is like that's a lot of time. Even the people who do it the fastest, I think it takes like 40 to 45 minutes, I think. And that's people who are super, super experienced. If you're even not that good, you could easily take double that time, like an hour and a half per run. Yeah, but in the beginning you need to work your way up. There's a whole guide for it, but obviously you don't have that much time in the beginning, and you need to get points to unlock slots, and in the slots you can equip items that extend your timer, basically. So you have to kind of like build up in the beginning to a longer timer, and then as you have a longer timer you could do more floors and get better rewards and that kind of stuff.
And I guess you're just buying the broken box pieces?
You get the broken box pieces from opening the boxes that you get from the runs and that drop from the bosses. And then with those broken box pieces, you can buy the boxes. And typically you want to buy if you're really looking for the really good rings, you want to buy the I think it's called Shining box or something that costs like 100 pieces. That has slightly better odds than the cheaper box. But yeah, that takes quite a lot of runs to get 100 pieces. Because sometimes there's like 2 or 3 in them, but most of the time it's like spell traces and a red flame sometimes, and if they always give pieces, then yeah, they build up pretty nicely, but it can take a while.
And okay, yeah, that's gonna be definitely a 250.
Yeah, usually around that time people start leveling slower anyway, right? So they start kind of looking around for other stuff to do. That's to alternate between all the grinding. Pog spell traces, yeah. I do want to mention that we're already quite a bit over time. Already about half an hour. So if there's like some if you still have a bunch of questions, maybe we can like shotgun out a few more. But I do want to look towards wrapping it up soon.
Honestly, the V Matrix was kind of my big thing.
Yeah, we did spend some time on that.
Yeah, that and the familiars. So I mean, I think I'm pretty good. I should be able to figure it out now.
Yeah, well, we have the guides, we have the commands, we have helpful people in chat, and of course I try to answer all the questions in chat at all times as well. The last thing I did want to mention was with your Legion grid, right?
Yes.
You're probably at a good point to just do like a complete reset and just kind of start from scratch, because you're definitely over-invested in the middle grid, as I would say. At the point where you really want to just use the middle to connect the outsides. Because getting into boss damage on top of having critical damage and IED is more important than having a little bit extra intellect and magic attack. That's going to lose its scaling quite a bit.
Okay.
So I would put like archer pieces through the middle to like connect your boss and your IED basically, and then go up from the IED, fill out the critical damage, fill out the IED, and then leftover in boss damage. And then if you're doing a mobbing setup, kind of do the same, but do it like north of the equator, basically, where you connect like critical rate and critical damage. Fill out your critical damage, take as much critical rate as you need to get to 100%, and then but work north towards the critical rate so you can go into bonus EXP if you need to. And if you're going into if characters need a lot of help, you can also go south into normal damage, to normal monster damage, but that might be a little bit tricky at your level because you've got a few like under 140, you don't have that many 200s yet, and you don't have like a 9k legion, so then you might lose a whole lot of value in traveling towards the boxes rather than filling them. So it might be just definitely focus on the critical rate and critical damage, and then maybe some extra in boss damages. And bonus EXP is probably the best for that setup.
Okay. Yeah, I just I wasn't really ever sure with it. I just figured having the just flat stats, like
it looks like you have like this one desk that doesn't really have a function, so you just put some stuff on it, and then you have like this fucking Jenga tower of stuff that holds itself up somehow, but it shouldn't. That's kind of what this looks like, where the pieces get bigger and you just like slam an extra one on when you can put on one extra, right? And then after a while you kind of look at the best you created, and it's like it's good to just wipe it clean and just start over, because you will get quite a bit of extra value from it by setting it up clean. And there's a tool for it, right? If you need help, so you have ! Legion. Somebody made a Legion solver. So if you put in all the pieces that you want to put in, where's the clear board? Right. So for mobbing, you do like I don't know, maybe like something like this, region click. I don't know. Maybe you can do something like that or something, right? So it'll depend here on which pieces you put in. So you want to look at like how many characters can you put in? 29. So then you put in the 29 with the largest size.
Oh, okay.
Maybe something like this. So that gives you around. It gives you around 122. So maybe you can do this. There you go. And then if I would click start, it would just boom, and then you could just drag them in basically. But you'll probably have different size pieces and different amounts, right? So it'll look different. Do for your one setup.
Okay, and then same with bot. I guess you want crit damage to be full for for boss, I guess for boss you want crit damage, and
you get this basically, right? Roughly. So then it'll look like this. Boom.
Oh, okay.
And you just drag them in like that. And then if you go further, right? But this is when you get into like, you can put 36 characters in there or something like that. Then you might do something like, for bossing, you probably end up doing something like, like this. How many more is that? 8 more. Right? Then your bossing might look something like this. And if you're really going into like 9K and you have like all of the characters in the world, you probably get out of crit, and then you start like, oh, sorry, not this. Then you start like filling in this again. Then you start going back to the main stat. And maybe you'll end up with something like something like that, for example, for bossing. And then for mobbing, you'll have something closer to, let's see, you'll probably have something closer to this. Like that, and then some crit, and then maybe some here, something like that.
Okay.
That's basically what my mobbing looks like. This is my mobbing one, right? It's very similar to that. Eventually, you want to get all the normal monster damage. We're up mid stat here. And then this one is for mages that need buff duration. Right? So like the, ice lightning mages that I have. Enough crit, extra, but buff duration gives final damage right there, so that's priority. And then this is my regular mage one. So here I'm also prioritizing the int characters that I'm putting in there. But that's really once you have all the characters, then you can like start optimizing on the member bonuses, right?
Yeah.
And then the main one is this, so like enough crit, fit this one, and then, but this is also because of the lab pieces, I got a bunch of extra coverage, and I can put 38 characters in, so this is a little bit cheating. This is like very hard to get to this point. This is basically a 10k Legion.
The lab pieces are just not obtainable anymore?
No, that was a temporary event, so if that ever comes back, then maybe we'll get him again, but there's been no announcement for that whatsoever, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, beautiful. I thank you for actually being able to help me just sort of get it's set into at least a direction instead of kind of starting a bunch of like you're trying to figure out like 6 different things at once and getting really distracted, because I think that's definitely an issue I have, is where I try and do something and then I just start to get distracted. Move on to the next thing, and
yeah, and then you look back a while later and you're like, oh, quite and then you're sitting on those resources, right? Like you're sitting on a grid that could be optimized a little bit, and then you're sitting on a whole bunch of nodes in your matrix that, and part of that is definitely just not knowing. You want to make a decision there, but you just don't know if you have all the information. When do you really have all the information, right? So hopefully the commands can help you out next time. If there's like a topic you're looking up, maybe you can check the command first, see if there's something useful there. Maybe it already answers all your questions. Maybe you only have like 1 or 2 questions left after that, and then you could just ask me or someone in chat, and then someone will be there to help you out. And if that all doesn't work, you can always, leave like a comment on a YouTube video or message me on Discord or something, so I definitely see it.
Okay, for sure.
I get back to you. All right, but yeah, good luck with everything. Hopefully Shining Star Force is good for you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I'll see you around in chat.
For sure.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, a 2-hour special. Totems are gone. Sessions even longer. Pog champ. Okay, Legion grid. Boom, timestamps. Ready. Ready, Freddy, steady. All right. So make sure to use the commands. You don't have to, of course, but if you have a bunch of questions and they were answered by the commands, that's where I'll point you. A lot of these, and all, just Googling, but a lot of these are you can find through my Twitch chat up there, ! Whatever you're looking for, and you'll most likely get a command, or just ! Commands, and you get the entire list of all the available commands. We have almost 200. I've been going through them. I've been deleting a few of the old ones, but we're still at like around 200. A little bit lower because, you know, you got some buffer up here. But all of these link to videos and to websites and all of that stuff. So you can also use them directly through here. You don't have to spam them in the chat if you don't want to. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you picked up some things. If you want a session like this, check the description of the video or leave a comment with your Discord name in the comment section of the YouTube video saying that you would like to win. And I might draw you as a winner. We've got a few more days left in November, but after that, I will draw 2 winners from all the videos, all of these coaching sessions that I did in November, and you could be one of those too. So if you want to win, get it. Yeah, other than that, I will see you either in the next video or I'll see you live on twitch.tv/Scardor. I stream there every day. That's actually where I make most of my content. So if you only know me on YouTube, jump in, say hi when we're live, and interact in there if you want to. Or no. Or don't. Yes, there's still, I believe, still Black Friday sales going on both the energy drink and the Exilag. I've got links for that in the description of the video as well. I think it's about 55% off there. So check those out if you want to. Energy drink, obviously, to get hyper. And Exilag lowers your ping in the game. For most people, it reduces their ping by anywhere from like 30 to 60%. So, yeah. If you think you're interested in that, check it out. If you're not, that's also cool. You know, you do you. But yeah, thanks for watching. And I'll see you on the next one or live on stream. Thanks for watching. Bye. Bye-bye.